Hi, this is Billy Tarasi with Modern Law Practice, and I'm here with Chad Burton.
Hey,
And I'm kind of excited for this discussion. This week, we started listening to the 6-part series on the Maximum Lawyer podcast on intake. And it is a discussion between Gary Falkowitz, who is kind of a legendary intake guru in the personal injury world. He's also the owner of an intake firm, or a firm that provides outsourced intake. And he was talking with Jim Hacking about redoing his intake for immigration. And it's been really fascinating. Chad, what were your initial thoughts?
uh, I thought it was a fun discussion because they did it real time. The idea was that Jim was trying to optimize his intake system and worked with Gary over the 6-part series. So I think they spent like half hour each time or so, kind of talking through different issues. And I think it was interesting to hear them both almost both kind of learning at the same time off of each other because Gary's in the PI world and a lot of what he does translate over into other practice areas, but identifying the difference between the PI world and immigration was pretty fascinating and how they went along with it.
Absolutely. And I remember like first starting to think about this in at the 2019 Maximum Lawyer Conference because we talked about intake, and I spoke after him about consultations. And in their world they don't really do consultations. They have claimants, they have their intake team sign up people immediately. They don't have to charge a fee. So there are definitely some differences, but there's a lot we can learn from PI because honestly, PI as a industry and as a segment of our industry is the most profitable and the most lucrative, and the most money has gone into developing that business. And there's a lot that the rest of us can learn from PI lawyers.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Because I mean, you think about the sales and marketing efforts alone, just sort of they were light years ahead of most other practice areas because you just had to be. Because I mean, the there's a story I just thought of this that kind of is telling on how you get clients. I heard a marketing discussion years ago where there was a PI lawyer on a panel and he was talking about how he was in the smaller town and for years and years and years they bid and bid and bid to try to get the back cover of the phone book, and which was about $250,000 at the time, I think in the like 80s or so, and one year they got it, and they were real surprised because the other juggernaut PI firm in town didn't want it anymore. Well, at the same time, that other PI firm rolled out commercials for the first time, so they moved over to advertising on TV versus the phone book aspect of it. And he's like, it just constantly changed, and the amount of money they have to drop to get leads in, and then the actions they have to take to make sure that when those people are calling, they have to act so quickly to be able to make sure they catch them, because these aren't personal referrals. These are people that are literally going through the phone book or watching TV and calling.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah. So the concept with Gary and Jim, started with for most of us consumer firms like family law or immigration, which Jim does. The starting point is the consultation, and the intake team's job is to book the consultation. And Gary posed the question: is that necessary? And what's also very interesting is that his intake firm is paid on a contingency. And
Right.
so we have developed a system that really looks like how do we qualify and disqualify and get them in as quickly as possible. And but at the same time, how do we make sure that we're not in information gathering mode? And I really like that concept because that is something that we totally agree with. Like, we want our clients, our potential clients, to be able to get to the lawyer as easily as possible, as quickly and easily as possible. So we don't want to be in information gathering mode. But what we have not done to date is figure out how do we have a short conversation to move them forward to committing to sign up, and how do we allow those clients who are calling and who are ready to sign up now, how do we bypass the consultation to just allow them to sign up?
Yeah, and the segmenting that out is going to be real interesting. It's something that we'll be able to take some of the concepts of really directing the conversation. Like you always need to listen and recognize, that they're calling and they want to tell their story, but really streamlining that conversation will be different.
Yeah, and what he was suggesting was something like this, answering the phone to say, hi, this is Billy. Are you calling for a divorce or family law attorney?
As opposed to saying,
How can I help you?
tell me what's going on. Yeah.
Tell me what's going on. And then from there, if you're not, well, what is it that what are you calling for? And then our people know to either transfer to the law firm or continue the conversation or something. So that's gonna cut down on minutes, which is going to save clients money who are paying for intake by the minute, and also just help move this conversation along. So first question, are you calling for a divorce or family law attorney? If yes, then okay, fantastic. What's the next qualifying question? For us, it would be, are you in Arizona? Um,
Right.
and you want like a yes or no question, not a, well, where are you located? Because
Correct. Right. Because you
located.
normally, you want, I mean, there's a lot of value in the person feeling comfortable being able to tell you about themselves. You want them to talk and want them to feel comfortable, because oftentimes the feedback we hear from our folks is that they, the potential client just felt like they were heard, and like this was part of the law firm from day one, so they're very comfortable with it. So
Right.
that's a different feel.
We have to balance like making sure that we are listening to the stories of the people who are hiring us
Right.
and not listening to the stories of the people who are wasting our intake people's time.
Right. Yep. So more direct questions.
Mhm.
Looking at, yeah, practice area, jurisdiction, um, and every firm's going to have different qualifiers, right? And but the one that the interesting part of the discussion, that where the contingency versus not comes into play. In Jim's case, it was fixed fee, but or if you're hourly, like part of the qualification is whether they're able to pay for the services.
Mhm.
Um, which is, that's a tough discussion. I mean, they had a lot of discussion, and we have the same discussion with um, our clients as to how much they want us to talk about their fee structure and things, because that's a tough one, because you don't want to jump too close into it, uh, jump into it too fast, because it can scare people away. But at the same time, if we're qualifying and just cutting to the chase, that's part of the deal.
Another really interesting disqualifier they had. So the conversation went like, are you calling about an immigration matter? Yes. Are you, for us, it would be, are you in the state of Arizona? And the next question was, are you looking to hire an attorney now?
Right.
And so Jim said, I don't really want to talk to people who aren't looking to hire an attorney now. A
Right.
divorce is a little bit different. Like I will talk to people. We have one client right now on our roster who I spoke with 2 years ago for a consultation. He hired the firm a year ago. Like that's not unusual. So figuring out for family law, for if you're not looking to hire an attorney today, but you're still interviewing, you could be a great client later down the road. What do we want to do about that?
Right, because yeah, sometimes the urgency is not there. I mean, unless there's been a filing already, or there's obviously potential urgencies. But yeah, in the PI world, you're going to have statute of limitations. Um, the Yeah, creating that urgency is going to be, it's a different deal.
Well, there'll be some people who say, yes, I'm looking to hire an attorney now. And then the question is, why do they need to go have a consultation? If they know that they want to hire your law firm right now,
Right.
then how do you get that? How do you say, well, great, I know you've obviously done your research and you're ready to hire a lawyer, and we've got a lawyer who can help you with that. Great job calling us today. You know that we can help you, something like that. And I do think you should listen to the podcast because we're not doing it justice, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of goodness there. Um,
Kind of replicate. It's like replicating stand-up comedy. You can't do it. It's just better to hear it directly.
for those
Yeah.
clients who say we want to hire now, don't make them sign up for a consultation. Figure
Right.
out how to close that deal. And that might mean transferring to an on-call attorney, or it might mean that you have sales and intake people who are equipped and empowered to sign up those clients. Now for PI, intake teams sign up claimants, I think that's what they call them,
Yep.
claimants.
Yeah. Well, and part of it's going to be how much value in the process is the potential client meeting the lawyer and feeling comfortable that once they meet that person either via Zoom or phone or hear their voice that they sound competent and they're comfortable with it. How much value is that on the actual hiring part of the process?
Right. You know, will family law clients be okay with somebody who says, well, let's get you signed up now and get you scheduled for a strategy session? It's a $6,500 retainer.
Right. And this is not a new discussion. I mean, we've been talking about this concept of non-attorney salespeople with our family law lawyer friends across the country for years now.
Right.
And and we've seen mixed results or that it feels good out of the gate. They start with somebody and that person seems like they're on fire and doing a good job, but then it fizzles out and it doesn't actually show the returns they think it would. So, I mean, it's not a new discussion. It's just, it's something that we have to keep looking at to figure out.
Well, that's my favorite part of modern law practice and of our intake service because I'm addicted to trying things and learning things and experimenting, and I'm completely fine wasting time and money with things that don't work. And the benefit of that is, you know, I've tried the non-lawyer sales position and I talked all about it and it didn't work. And then we didn't implement it with our clients. And now I'm going to try it another way. And only if it really works and is wildly successful and we figure out a formula for success, will we roll it out and recommend it to other law firms.
Right. Experimentation is great.
If you're into it, but it can
Well,
be,
right. Not everybody has that.
you
Yeah.
know, it can
That's
be
right.
financially devastating. I can tell you with certainty that I have flushed hundreds of thousands of dollars on experiments, which have been completely worth it for me.
Right.
Not everybody would be into that.
Right. That's not, not everybody's into that.
Yeah. Some people like Vegas.
Right. Exactly. You may not be a slot machine kind of gal, but
Different kind of,
you'll roll the dice with intake people
yeah, or counselors
or,
or
or,
new people in your law firm.
or whatever it is,
Whatever.
whatever month it is.
Yeah. What other thoughts or takeaways did you get from the podcast series?
I think it reinforces just trying new things like we talked about. I think that like you just have to constantly think about that. And it's, you know, as we talk and work with law firms across the country, we're talking about how people are, making sure that in these unprecedented times, that they're working on their models and making sure they're delivering services, properly and evolving. We have to do the same. Everybody has to do it. We have to do it. We have to look at our intake services and make sure that we're trying out different things that would be useful. But it's just interesting when you can, like, we've always also looked at other industries to take ideas outside the legal industry, but here we're taking a segment of our legal industry, the PI world, that doesn't always necessarily translate, straight over to other practice areas because of the contingent nature. It's just ways of taking nuggets away from and moving it over to what we're doing.
Well, it's really interesting. So Google made available to lawyers LSA ads. What does that stand for? Local service ads. So to get qualified, you have to go through kind of an intense background check. You have to prove you've got insurance. You get investigated, and then you become a Google certified provider. And then you get to advertise. You get to pay them.
Right.
and,
Then you can pay.
then you get qualified to pay them a lot of money. And so Modern Law went through the process with our marketing agency, and we began advertising for LSA ads, and they're tracked very closely because if they send you an ad that is the wrong area of law or a competitor, you don't pay for it. And so we're tracking it closer than we've ever tracked anything before. And many of the people are not scheduling because they either want an immediate consultation or they do not want to pay for a consultation. So far, we are getting a ton of leads through this LSA program. And it's valuable because the better you do with Google, the more often they'll send you people in the future. So we don't want to abort mission, but it is not creating an ROI yet. And so it really does make sense to find out, well, are these people who are clicking on these LSA ads, are they the people who would sign up, who don't need a consultation, who need a faster, more streamlined process to get
Right.
set up?
Right. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see. Clio announced last week with Clio Grow integrating with Google on that front, where people can schedule. I think they can schedule consultations straight through Google. Will that be sufficient as a mechanism to feed that immediacy?
Yeah, the immediacy thing is just so big. And then the other really cool thing that we've got coming down with our intake service is something that I'm not aware of other agencies doing. But now, in the next several weeks, we're rolling out um, a service that will allow people who are calling in, if other people are on the phone and they can't get to the call, they'll be able to say, your wait time is 2 minutes. Would you like to wait or would you like a call back? And it'll be very interesting for people who say, yes, call me back. Do they go on to call other lawyers, or is that in and of itself enough to make them stop searching?
Right. Yep. Does that get them their their attention is captured for long enough? Yeah.
And and you just think about how many steps you have to be right. Like, you have to answer the phone, but you also have to then, do the right thing as far as the timing for a consultation and be available and have happy people on the phone. Like, it's a
Right.
lot of things that have to go right in order to get a client.
Absolutely. And now we're going to experiment with like all the stuff that we've built up as far as the nurturing of the relationship. We're going to say, we'll do that at some point, but it's going to be later in the process. It's going to be qualify, qualify, qualify.
And
See
nurture.
if that's sufficient. Right. And then we'll get to know you. So
Yeah. And it may or may not work, but we will let you know for sure.
yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chad. I appreciate the conversation as always.
Likewise.
Bye.